So today we are going to talk about something different, and it's not about the subject or a treatment, it's about the doctors and their experience in the clinical field and their personal opinion on certain issues faced by the dental students. So today we have a very special guest with us, Dr. Aarti J. Vikram, a top class research academician, and Dr. Aarti has completed her UG and PG from Savita Dental College, and she is specialized in pediatric dentistry. Dr. Aarti has won many awards such as Best Outgoing Student in her PG and Best Faculty Paper Award at the Second National Conference of Indian Society of Dental Traumatology. And she has completed her various research methodology and systemic review courses through John Hopkins University and University of Cape Town. Dr. Aarti has published papers in PubMed and Scopus in the journals, and she has worked as an organizing committee member for national conferences and has won many awards. Currently practicing her dentistry at Kavik Dental Care, Amnijekare. I would love to welcome an inspirational doctor to share with us her experience in field of pediatric dentistry. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, Sahana. I'm very happy to be a part of this show. Thank you for the opportunity. I extend a very warm welcome to all the viewers of Dentist in Making YouTube channel. Dr. Sahana has been my student, and I'm very proud that Sahana during the lockdown has worked on such a brilliant idea. She's not put the time to a waste. She's worked on it, and which is being used by many students, this YouTube channel, so that it benefits them as well as it benefits Sahana as well, because I firmly believe that teaching is the best way to remember something, remember the concepts, and learn and unlearn and relearn. So I'm very happy to be a part of the show, Sahana.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So let us start with a common question. Why did you choose pediatric dentistry, ma'am?
Yeah, choosing pediatric dentistry was a life-changing experience for me. Actually, I did my undergraduation and my post-graduation in Savita Dental College. So after I completed my undergraduation in Savita, I obviously wanted to do my post-graduation also at Savita Dental College, being an alumni there. And Dr. M.S. Muthu was heading the department of pediatric dentistry at that point in time. He's a very inspirational teacher, and I'm one of the main reasons that made me choose pediatric dentistry was him. That was one thing. Second thing was also, it is also a very different specialization compared to the others. It's actually an many departments together, combined together, that's how many people put forth pediatric dentistry as. It's like you learn bits and pieces of so many departments together, but then how you actually apply it on the child is completely different. You cannot do what you do on an adult on a child. And also, treating a child is like treating an entire, a wholesome, a comprehensive treatment, not like just treating one tooth. You can't treat one tooth and leave the child. It is not possible. A wholesome treatment, a comprehensive treatment is necessary. So these are a few of the reasons that made me choose pediatric dentistry as a post-graduation.
How has this lockdown been so far, ma'am, clinically and personally?
Yeah, clear lockdown. There were two lockdowns. 2.0 we are in right now. So 1.0, if you ask me, lockdown one was basically, all of us, it gave us all jitters. We were all very scared to move out. Now, though, we are all used to this lockdown, thing. But lockdown one, personally, it was very, it gave a lot of, kind of what next in future kind of a thought. But then I did work on a few other things. Personally, if you ask me, I did work on some fitness goals and all that. So I think it gave me some time to work on that, on fitness per se. And then later on, only lockdown, if you say only first 2 months we were in lockdown, complete lockdown. After that, we were actually working clinically also. But then clinically, the most important thing, more than treating the patient, is the protocol that you follow. Whether from the minute the patient enters your clinic till he or she leaves the clinic, and after that is how you disinfect yourself. That is also very important. I think these procedures, the protocols you follow, it became too tedious after the lockdown and after the ingress of the COVID-19 infection. The most time consuming is the disinfection part. So that is what has been changing. That is what has completely changed pre and post lockdown clinically. So the treatment as such remains the same, but we follow a lot of protocols. We look at the various temperatures. We look at the pulse oximeter we use, and then we look for their oxygen saturation before they enter. We give them a sanitizer, and then we also give them a mouthwash, pre-mouthwash rinse, which is very, very essential. There are a lot of studies that have shown that even if the virus is present in the oral cavity at that point in time, it can very much reduce the infectivity period can be reduced by using the mouthwash, pre-rinse before we do the treatment. So these are the few changes that we brought in after the COVID-19 infection ingressed.
The standard of care for early childhood caries has primarily been surgical or restorative treatment. Very little emphasis is given on the prevention and management of the disease. What is your take in this, ma'am?
So, yes, actually, Sahana, what you said was very true. The amount of emphasis that has been given to restoring a tooth, or what would you say, restoring the lost tooth or restoring the tooth that is cavitated, the emphasis on prevention and awareness is very, very less. If the awareness and prevention part, is given more emphasis, the restorative techniques needed, or all of these restorative procedures would even come down. So this awareness has to be brought in to the parents actually. Okay, so now most of them, the most important thing about early childhood caries and the awareness is that, first of all, the milk tooth should not be taken for granted. That is the most important awareness that has to be brought in to the minds of the people. Everything in this world has a purpose. Just like that, even our milk tooth has a purpose. If it has to stay in the oral cavity for a certain period of time, it has to stay in the oral cavity for that period of time. Only then its work is over. See, your lower anterior, your lower front tooth, are going to shed. Your primary tooth will shed only at the age of 6 years. Till then, it has to remain there. It has its own functional aesthetics. Functional is basically, I'm talking about your mastication. But in case of your front teeth, basically the it is more of not more of mastication, it's more of aesthetics, they say. But also one more important thing that has to be seen is that if the child loses the teeth, the front teeth, very early, most of them, they pull out the teeth. Okay, it is decayed. It's only a milk tooth, you remove it, it's gone. But what happens is, because of the gap that is present in the front teeth, the child tends to put the tongue out. This habit, that's called the tongue thrusting habit. Also, the speech of the child is hampered. They don't pronounce words very clearly. Certain words like 61, 62 and all, and thirsty, such words, they can't pronounce properly. So even the speech defects happen. So these awareness has to be brought into the minds of the parents. So also, early loss of tooth can lead to a lot of crowding. They cannot chew the food properly. If one side they lose the tooth, okay, they pull out the tooth, say, and then they chew on the other side. What happens? These teeth also get decay. So what happens again? Now they will chew on the other side. Now it's a vicious cycle. The child loses the teeth. It's also a psychological phenomenon. They go to school. Okay, so they are unable to even smile, they are not able, because it is it even affects them psychologically. So it's a very big vicious cycle that happens. So awareness about these also have to be brought into the minds of the parents. And one most important awareness that I would say is that the awareness about white spot lesions, which is very very important, because they should know that when a white spot is occurring on the child of the tooth, it is not necessary. It obviously there are other diagnoses for white spots on the tooth, but when there is a generalized white spots present on the milk tooth of the child, the parents have to know that this is the stage that they can act. The child's tooth can be remineralized. The cavity can be reversed. This is the only phase where the dental caries can be reversed. It can be remineralized by the application of fluoridated or non-fluoridated CPP, ACP. There are so many, medicaments available for that. The child's tooth at this stage can be reversed. After this, once it becomes a brown, scooped out kind of a lesion, then there is no looking back. You have to restore it. So the minute awareness has to be, it might sound very, very small, but these awareness have to be brought into the minds of the parents. Also, morning, night brushing, twice daily toothbrushing habit. And this has to be instilled in the minds of the parents. The parents have to brush the tooth of the child till they are at least about 7, 8 years old, because the child will not have the grip to hold the brush and go up to the back tooth and brush. Okay, so what they do, they will quickly grab the toothbrush, put the toothpaste, only the front teeth is brushed, and that too in a very haphazard manner, and then they leave it. And then the parents will come and say, oh, my child brushes the tooth morning and night. No, this is not proper brushing. So all these small things which actually matter have to be taken care of. So definitely awareness has to be brought in. In it with respect to the parents as well as to the child.
Since it is a pandemic, we all started going into online classes and online interviews, and even now we are taking the interview in online. So, what is your take on online classes as an academician point of view, ma'am? And what are the pros and cons you face?
Actually, yes, it's a big change nowadays to attend online classes. However, there were online courses, they are still going on. Online courses, if you see, they have recorded sessions where we have to sit in and look at the record. We can look at the recording whenever we want. And then we will have to, if we are attending a course, then what we have to do is we have to answer the MCQs, and then we get graded for your MCQs, and then you get a course certificate. So online courses were always there. So online classes, if you see, the communication, is the eye-to-eye contact is lost. When we look at the student in a classroom, if at all we sense some kind of okay, somebody is not able to understand somewhere, and then we ask them, someone is not able to understand, we ask them, and then we repeat the concepts. But during the online classes also that is possible. Actually, that is possible, but we can't look at them eye to eye. But the students can actually send in the questions or their doubts through chat boxes. But most of them, very unfortunate, they don't use it. Also, when we do it in the online session, we tend to, put extra efforts to actually, we don't know if they're able to hear what we are saying, if they are able to understand what they are saying. Okay, so we take extra efforts to put in the knowledge or the concept into the minds of the student. Actually, I'm the students right now, we have to give them credits to actually sitting in through the online classes. It is not at all easy. But they are all sitting through it, they're all listening to it. But I think some amount of interaction from their side also, for example, we can also, what we could do is we can ask the student to present a few slides about the concept that we're discussing, which will make them also get involved in the discussion. See, if we ask them to say something, obviously they'll have to read up about it. They'll have to, learn about it. They'll be thorough with it. So these concepts of, interaction can be made, more of interaction should be brought in. It can be done. It is not that it cannot be done. It has to be done and it can be done. And some effort from the student side also will be needed for this, through online classes that will also be needed. That is one thing. But the most important disadvantage, if you ask me, is that the clinical exposure of the students is completely missed out, which is very, very, very important. Whatever concepts you learn, whatever you learn, unless and until you see a patient with this particular disease or a condition, you will not be able to diagnose or do a differential diagnosis. That is very, very important, I feel. So it is, I obviously it is very, very disheartening that many of them cannot come to the OPDs, cannot look at the patients, cannot, interact with them, do a case history, one-on-one history, what and all. Only when they do that, they'll know, okay, when we ask this question, so the patient is answering like this. So what do I have to write down in my case history sheet for that? These things, the clinical exposure and also number of patients they see. Only if they see a lot of patients, they will be able to differentiate between a fluorosis or a white spot lesion or an enamel hypoplasia, all of these things. If they have to give a differential diagnosis, they will have to see the clinical cases. So that is one thing that has been missed out. But if you ask me about how they can overcome it, they can look at a lot of pictures for now. They can look at a lot of pictures. They can look at a lot of case reports that have been published previously. In the case reports, they will have a lot of in detail pictures. So that can be seen. They can look at a lot of videos, educational videos also. That can also be done, and that's what can can be done right now. So that's the disadvantage of the online sessions as such.
Exactly, ma'am. We also lack with the communication skill, because if we go to the OPDs, we will see patients and we will interact with patients and we'll make them to sit in the dental chair and we will be knowing how to treat the patient. So all these experience are in lack, ma'am. So what can it be done for it, ma'am?
Definitely what you said is so true, because they don't know how to, they might not know how to go and interact. You cannot ask, some questions have to be asked in certain manner and in certain order. So in that case, we can actually have a mock-up patient. Like your student can be, one of the students can be a mock-up patient. With that patient, that student can act like a patient and then say that, okay, I have a pain. I have pain. In case if I have to talk in the regional language, எனக்கு வலி இருக்கு, கீழே கடைசி கடவா பல்லுல ரைட் சைடுல வலி இருக்கு அப்படின்னா, so how are you going to put it in your case sheet? Just make a mock-up patient. Mock-up patient, for the student is going to be the mock-up patient. They can have a rotation in this. So obviously the student has to write, okay, the patient in a chief complaint is patient complains of pain in the lower right back tooth region. Okay. So for how many days? Next question. So such kind of mock-up, patients can also be done, which is actually it has been done in other countries and all. There are mock-up patients being done. So it can be done that way, just like how we use our phantom head to do our cavity preparation and all that. So similarly, this also can be done, and we can take case history that way and do. So these are few things that can be incorporated to make the sessions more interactive. One, also you make the student do a problem-based learning, which is very, very important. So this is the problem. The student comes to know this is the problem. This is the problem. So how did the problem start? So first, for that, I have to know what is the physiology, and then I'll have to know what is the pathophysiology. Right? So it all gets a link, and then you find out what is the treatment plan, what is the options available. So such kind of problem-based learning can also be done. We have also done it for your batch. I'm sure we have sent you some case, histories like that. We've given you problem-based learning like that. So we've categorized the problems like trauma, one problem, one was ECC, one was oral habits, So this was already there. Even before the lockdown, we've given you such problem-based learning. So this can be actually continued. I'm sure it would have benefited you all.
Yes, ma'am, Kandipa. So, when you were a student, what was the one thing your staff have inspired you at that time, and something that you implemented now with your students being a staff, ma'am?
Yes, okay. So, as I told you, my biggest inspiration in my field is my mentor, Dr. M.S. Muthu sir. I'm sure all of you all would have read his textbook. So, he's been the biggest influence or the inspiration for me. He's always told us in our post graduation, he's told us women are known for multitasking. I did not realize that then, but now I'm able to realize that because. Too many things running in our mind, be it family or research or your academics or your clinical practice, everything, but we're able to do it. So that's what he rightly said, when during our post graduation. So multitasking has to be done. That is one thing. So it is not that you cannot switch just like how you switch from Instagram to Facebook to whatever. You can switch your minds from, okay, I did my case now, okay, now on to whatever work you have personally, and then work next to your research goals or whatever. So multitasking is one thing that I have learned from my mentor. Second thing is that he told us to ask questions. He completely told us, ask. If you don't understand, ask questions. Don't sit down if you don't understand even one word. That is what I have implemented even now during my classes or whatever, during my OPD sessions. I keep on asking, do you understand? Do you understand? Ask a question. I'm sure you also would have gone through these things. I always keep asking, ask questions. Otherwise you will never, you will not understand. Sometimes I even tell them, if you don't ask a question, I'm not even going to give you an attendance. This also I have done. Just to make, they have to come out of their shells and ask questions. Otherwise we are just going to mugging up, and that is not at all going to work. So I have learned to ask questions from him, and I am still, I have, and I am still, and I will always encourage my students to question any concept to make them strong in that particular field. So always ask questions, ask doubts. That's one thing that I think I have learned from my mentor and I've implemented.
So, what is your opinion about malpractice during exams and test, ma'am?
Okay, that's a very okay. So obviously, it is what we do. It will become like a moral science class if I actually talk about it. But it is going to be that's the moral values that has been instilled in us. Yeah, we have always been taught to talk. I mean, be truthful, be honest, everything. எல்லாமே அதுதான் அவ்வளவுதான். That is the whole thing, and it is not going to benefit 1% also. It will not benefit அவ்வளவுதான். It is நம்ம என்ன பண்ணாலும், whatever you're going to do, even if you score 100 on 100 or 90, it is not going to benefit you even 1% if you do a malpractice. அவ்வளவுதான். எதுவுமே it is not going to benefit. தெரியலையா தெரியல, I don't know. And that is also one important thing. If you don't know something, எனக்கு தெரியல, I don't know. There is no wrong in saying accepting I don't know. I have always told my students also, you tell, you accept, you don't know, you finished your paper. I have told this also in the exam hall. You finished your paper, you don't know, otherwise keep the paper and go. Don't unnecessarily waste time. Otherwise, go and study those questions. Go home and study those questions that you don't know. That is not needed. And also it will also it will make you feel guilty unnecessarily. So not needed. I think we can actually work on it, work on our concepts, rather than one thing that can be done, can be, instead of mugging up, if we learn the concepts, we will write without any kind of a hindrance. So that is itself, I think, will stop all these things of malpractice. இதுக்கு மேல if I talk, it will become like a moral science class. So
Were you mischievous during your college days, ma'am?
mischievous students during the college days. ஆமா அண்டர் கிராஜுவேஷன்ல டெஃபினட்டா கொஞ்சம் மிஸ்சீவியஸ் தான் நானு. மிஸ்சீவியஸ்னா பட் ஆனா ஐ ஆல்வேஸ் யூஸ் டு பி கொஞ்சம் ஐ வில் பி சின்சியர் ஒன்லி. If I have to submit the the assignment on this date, I have to submit. I used to have fun. That fun quotient and fun quotient was always there. That is always there with me. It has never gone out. But that's a little bit of that, maintaining the deadlines. I used to submit my assignment and all on time. That and all, I will not take it for granted. If this has to be done at this time, it has to be done at this time. That and all I used to be. But the fun quotient was always there. I always used to enjoy with my friends and all that. So that was there in UG and PG. PG was completely, we had to, we had we worked really hard through obviously any post-graduation. Yeah, we have to work hard during the post-graduation time. But even then, we have good memories about our post-graduation also. So it was good.
This question is behalf of the UG students, moms. As a specialist in pediatrics, can UG students do pulpotomy and pulpectomy by completing a fellowship course? Is a fellowship course as effective as postgraduate, ma'am?
Okay, so fellowship courses are available now. In almost all the fields, you have fellowship courses. The duration is a little lesser when you compare to post-graduation. And post-graduation, if you ask me, it teaches not just theoretical part or academics or something. It makes you a different person as such. When you do a post-grad, you learn to take up you will be pushed towards an endless target. You will be pushed. I think that push will make you a better person. At that point in time, you will realize, okay, maybe, I'm pushed too much. I cannot do this. How can I finish this particular target or this deadline? How can I, finish this assignment? But that is what is actually making you realize your grit and your determination in your work. You will definitely, but you will be able to finish it. You will not know what it is. So as such, it makes you a different person. You will grow as a different person. That is one thing. Second thing, also, I'm not sure if I don't think there are fellowship courses. Research is not added. Thesis will not be added. Thesis also, doing a thesis work or a research work will give you a lot of exposure. Lot of exposure. The exposure that you do you get by doing a research is like tremendous. You meet a lot of people, you read a lot, you will get you will think of ways and means to finish that research work. That itself is very, very important. So all of these things are different from a fellowship course. But if you feel that can give you some amount of an exposure for a clinical guidance alone, I'm only going to be into a clinical only clinics, I'm not going to have anything else, then maybe if that is the goal, then you can go ahead and do fellowship courses. Also, when we do fellowship courses, we have to keep in mind that we are treating children. So when we are treating children, like there are fellowship courses for implant also. Okay, we go place an implant. Obviously, we learn a little bit of theory about it, but we also have to understand that we are treating children, and every child is different. Every child will, the way they behave in the clinic is going to be different. So the theoretical part of how to handle a child has to be known. How you manage the behavior of the child. What is this child? When the child walks in itself, we have to assess a little bit about their behavior management skills that you have to put forth. Is the child, having a positive attitude? Is the child little anxious? Yeah. So we'll have to, is a child, completely negative behavior? Should we have to handle the child in a completely different way? So all these things also have to be learned. So if at all these can be also incorporated into the fellowship, then why not? So, but these are the things that, I learned in my post-graduation, that can actually groom a person into a better individual. More, you become more acceptable to, you'll be ready to overcome any challenge.
So, what are the 5 important must have for any individual interested in starting their private practice, ma'am?
If at all you want to start a private practice, first of all, we'll have to know what kind of a practice we are going to do. If at all we've specialized in a particular, for example, pediatric dentistry, or you've specialized in prosthodontics or endodontics, we'll have to know what kind of a practice we are in for, and where is our practice going to be. That is also very, very important. Okay, where are we going to put up the practice? It is going to be a completely residential area, or is it going to be a commercial area? Based on that, also your investment has to change. If your investment in the clinic also is very, very important. Do not take it for granted. You have to make meaningful investments in your clinic. What are the things that you will use day in and day out? That for those things you have a good investment. Like for your dental chair, that's a very important investment. Do not compromise on your dental chair, because that is one thing that you're going to use day in and day out. Your air rotor, you're going to invest. You have to invest in it. Certain things like that. Your investment has to be taken care of. Second thing is, what type of a practice you're going to do. You're going to do a general dentistry, you're going to do a specialized dentistry, okay, only specialized dentistry. For example, I'm an endodontist, I'm going to do only root canal treatments. So if that's the case, then you will have to have consultants coming from other clinics to your clinic. So you have to bear that also in mind. So if you want, you're going to have an orthodontic patient coming in, then you will have to call an orthodontic consultant for your clinic. So you will have to bear that also in mind. And for root canal treatment, if you say, definitely get an rotary. Rotary endodontics is nothing like it. So you have to, when you think of doing a practice, you're going to do root canals, please invest in good rotary endodontic instruments. That is very, very important. And then diagnosis of the condition. For example, your diagnostics. By diagnostics, I mean your X-ray unit or your RBG or whichever you're going to invest in. Do it as a very, very, take your time. See what works best for you, and then go in for it. If you think investing in bigger, instruments or equipments is very at an early age is very difficult, go in for smaller things. Maybe go in for an X-ray unit with an IOPA initial stages. Okay, once you are able to get few patients and all that, then go in for digitalized versions like RVGs and all that. So take it very slowly. Don't in a very hasty manner invest all the money and get in all the instruments, and don't know without and then people start thinking, okay, how am I going to get back this money? That is also very important. And don't look for returns immediately. That is very important. Key point is, don't look for returns immediately. It will come. Definitely, your returns will come. Do a good, genuine practice. Do a good sterilization. Okay, very, very important. Key factor. Nowadays, everybody looks at how are you removing the instruments from your sterilized pouch? Are the instruments rusted? Are they sterilized? How many uses have you made? Very important. If you look at the files, you also have to start, behind your rotary files or whatever files, hand files, in your sterilization pouch, you'll have to mark it, how many number of uses you've done. You have to inspect the files to see, have they worn out. Very important. Actually, this part I learned during my post-graduation only. So these are the things that I learned, which I'm still practicing. I put down the number of times I've used the instrument. Okay, so sterilization is very, very important. The X-ray unit or the RBG unit that you invest is very important. Your clinical chair is very, very, very important. Okay, and then have a good case history file, to take up the case history of the patient. Very, very important. get an informed consent from the patient. Okay, make them know what they have to, what they are going through. If it's a root canal treatment, what it is. Have a good, a desktop or a computer or a laptop. Explain to them this is how the Gatapaka point or whatever your restorative material is going to reach up to the apical end. It makes them, understand what is your work. They will also understand what is your work. It is not, they cannot know, and not everyone will understand what a root canal treatment is. Sometimes you have to show pictures. So these are the things I think are very, very important when you start a practice. So, and also patience is the key.
Yes, ma'am. So handling a pediatric patient is very difficult. We all know. So what is the best way to handle and manage a pediatric patient, ma'am?
Okay, for handling a pediatric patient, most important thing is first dental visit. Okay, most of us would have read in our textbooks first dental visit. That first dental visit is basically to get to know the child. It is to establish a communication and a rapport with the child. We have to establish a rapport with the child. We'll have to know the name of the child. We'll have to know the nickname of the child. What are the likings of the child? So that during the next appointment, we can do something, for example, they like a minion. The next appointment, we can get them a small minion badge or a minion eraser or something. Smallest things. Children are fascinated by the smallest thing. They do not look at the money or anything. It's just the effort that you put in to make them understand or to know them. That makes them fascinated. And obviously, see, certain things only can be done from our end. You know that with 3 years and below, the child is going to be a child who will be lacking cooperative ability, basically. That is because whatever you try to make them understand, whatever you tell them, they will not be able to understand, because that is the cognitive development of the child at that point in time. That is all done. You cannot try after a point in time. So these children will basically, if at all they need a full mouth rehabilitation, they have to be done. It has to be done under general anesthesia. Children below 3 years. But sometimes even a child of 5-year-old, okay, they'll be completely uncooperative. So we'll have to try. We'll have to try various behavior management techniques, right from tell show do to distraction techniques. And then your last resort will be your aversive management techniques, like your voice control or your home or whatever, your hand over mouth. But most of the children do not prefer that also these days. They are, they are like very sensitive. Children are very sensitive. You cannot, just like that, you cannot raise your voice. We have to, make them and make the parent also understand that this is just to grab the attention of the child. Just like that, you cannot put your voice up. Excuse me. You will have to inform the parent that we are actually doing it to gain the attention of the child. This has to be done as a last resort only. Key factor is to establish communication, know what the child likes and does not like, and do it in a very systematic manner. Okay, all of us would have learned about the systematic desensitization. Always start from the most non-invasive procedure. That's why you have the first dental visit. Just get to know about the child in the first visit. Do a small fluoride application or a small filling. Even when you're going to do a filling, don't use an air rotor. Okay, try and use a spoon excavator, a sharp spoon excavator, and do a small filling. These are the small things that will all make the child gain your, trust. The child will get, become, they will trust you. They will have faith in you, and then sit through bigger procedures. So that's how you do it. And also do a lot of distraction. You can use audio visual aids, or if you're very good at talking, nothing like it. Just keep talking to the child about their favorite cartoons. You'll have to know. Nowadays, you have to know Peppa Pig. You have to know the characters of Peppa Pig to actually talk to the child or whatever. So something like that. You have to be updated what the child likes and then communicate with the child. So it just comes with practice and seeing more patients. I think you will all get a hang of it.
As you said, ma'am, each children have different psychological behavior. So how to assist a child's behavior and manage them in their first dental visit, ma'am?
So actually, when the child enters the clinic, some children very happy, completely happy. They come and sit on without us telling, they'll come and sit on the chair and open the mouth wide even without us telling. They are all positive children with positive attitude. You don't have to do anything to them. Just at least we should not bring down the hope of the child. Do only what you say. If you're gonna give them an injection, if you're gonna inject a local anesthetic, it is going to be a little painful. You cannot say it is not at all going to be painful. You have to be truthful to the child. You can tell them, I'm gonna give you one magic water. This magic water can be a little painful, like an ant bite. Okay, even I've had this, but you're very brave enough. You came and sat on the dental chair. That's very brave of you. I'm very, very, proud that you came and sat here. So if you can actually cooperate to the small ant bite, then you're not going to have any pain. This kind of a euphemisms can be added. So these are the things that can be done. Some children, what they do is they won't even enter the clinic. They will be running to the opposite direction. They are completely negative behavior, children with negative behavior. You would have seen, we have to literally drag the child or carry the child and come. They are another extreme. That's one child. The second, the in between, they call the anxious children. They want to cooperate. They want to be good to the dentist. They want to help us. They want to cooperate. They want to get the treatment, but they are very, very extremely anxious children. They're very anxious. They cannot, the anxiety can be because of anything. They are fearful children. The fear can be because of the previous bad dental experience which they had, or it can be because somebody told them that I went to a dentist, they will give you an injection. Or the parent itself, actually that is a habit which has to be stopped. I will take you to the dentist and give you an injection, or I will take you to the doctor and give you an injection. No, please stop it right away. That is one thing that has to be stopped. Don't utter any word to the child about an injection. We will take care of the child. We will tell them in the way that they will accept it. That's how the whole thing is made. You have to tell it in a way the child will accept it. So never make the child fearful of a dental experience. That is one thing. And anxious children also can be handled by using conscious sedation techniques. Nitrous oxide can be given to them. So by using these combination techniques, the way the child enters. So when they come, sit in the dental chair happily, they run away to the opposite direction. 3 is they are very, very anxious. They are hiding behind the parent. Usually that's what they do. They go behind the parent and they hide behind the parent. So they are anxious children. So these are the things that small cues that you can take up when the child enters the dental clinic.
Ma'am, have any child asked you a question that left you speechless, ma'am?
Actually, during our post-graduation, I remember, when we had to handle trauma patients, you have to do, there'll be about 3 years or 4-year-old child. They'll come with a trauma. We have to handle them. So we cannot do any behavior management. 3 or 4 years, they will not understand. They will be in pain, everything. So we have to go in for physical restraints and all that. So we have to hold the child. The parent will be holding the child. The other postgraduates will be holding on the madri. So they've not asked me questions, but they've pleaded me like, or பயங்கர dramatic plead-ஆ இருக்கும். அது வந்து ஐயோ என்னை விட்டுடுங்களே, ப்ளீஸ் என்னை விட்டுடுங்களே, என்னை காப்பாத்துங்களே. I heard such words there only. என்னை காப்பாத்துங்க, என்னை விட்டுடுங்க, நான் போயிடுறேன், எனக்கு வேற எதுவுமே வேணாம். It will be like the drama, the complete dramatic words, which you see in all Tamil dramas. அந்த மாதிரி they used to talk. So more than question, I think this is actually we'll all be very tension and naga work pannittu irupom. Such words will give us some kind of a humor for us. But more than the question, children used to, after they complete their treatment, they used to come and give us thank you cards. They will write down, say thank you doctor abdin solli, they'll give us thank you, small thank you cards, or they'll give us small flowers. next sitting வரும்போது whichever the small thing which they plucked from their nearby garden. There's one child who wrote down ஆர்த்தின்னு பேர் எழுதி ஒரு லெட்டருக்கும் ஒரு one adjective எழுதி amazing அந்த மாதிரி எழுதி கொடுத்தாங்க. So these are the things that which keeps us going, even though the child is very children are difficult to handle, definitely, but these things keep us going.
So when it comes to dietary need of children, we all know children love chocolates. So what you recommend is the safest and healthiest meal for children, ma'am, and how to implement and encourage children in regards to oral management?
First, I love chocolates too. Okay, எனக்கே ரொம்ப பிடிக்கும் chocolate. So I cannot say don't have chocolates.
So yes, finally we are all through KV Medical and Dental Care, which is located in Amjikarai near Ampa Skywalk and Yamar Hospital, and they give all kind of dental treatment, but they are so much specialized towards root canal treatment, all ceramic crowns, implants, orthodontic treatment, and treatment of early childhood caries and space maintenance for children, and treatment under general anesthesia and conscious sedation with nitrous oxide and oxygen unit, and aesthetic restoration of teeth with zirconia crowns. So Google link is given in the description. You can check them for consultation and appointments.